Absolutely, and let's not forget, Andrey Esipenko has been a giant slayer. He's taken that Magnus Carlsen.
Yes.
He was above a 2,700 player, so you cannot write him off. You know, this might be potentially the first big upset of EWC, but a long way to go, the best of two, and it's go time.
Here we go, E4, E5, let's get this underway. Roy Lopez to start the day off.
That's right, Jan Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces, playing very classical chess, very principled stuff. The Roy Lopez, the Spanish opening, is one of the favorite openings of all of the top players in world chess. In the meantime, Esipenko reacts by going for the Berlin Wall, the Berlin defense, known to be rock solid with black here.
It is the most solid response against the Spanish, against the Roy Lopez, and we see some trades in the center of the board, opening up a line. And look at that, Jan Nepomniachtchi with a reaction, a question mark appears. This is a strange decision by Esipenko.
Wow, big decision here. This is known to be bad for black.
That was quick.
Yeah, this is quick. The previous move, given a question mark, taking one of the pawns in the center. Black is up 2 pawns right now, but look at the black king. It's on an open line. It's unlikely to be able to castle to safety anytime soon. He's playing with fire here, Esipenko. He's playing super provocative chess.
And White is about to pick up one of those central pawns and the open diagonals and the lines that you pointed out. But look at Esipenko. This, again, smells and reeks of opening preparation. Something that we touched upon is one of his biggest forte. Now, with the 10+0 time format, if you can get your opponent to think early on, you know you're going to be up on the clock for those critical decisions. Is that part of Matt's strategy here for Esipenko?
Exactly, right? If you are able to go out of book early on, if you're able to get your opponent in the tank as far as using time is concerned, you can see that Jan hit down to under 9 minutes, 9.5 minutes for Esipenko. That is great from a long-term strategic point of view, but at the expense of a possible question mark, like David, where do you draw the line between suboptimal move and something that's actually brilliant and takes loads of time away from your opponent?
That's the trickiest thing in chess openings, knowing how much risk to take, how much reward potentially there is at the end of the line. Here we see a trade of knights. Esipenko continues to play immediately. Nepomniachtchi continues to react. He's trying to troll through his memory banks here to remember why this has a bad reputation for black, this opening. But he doesn't have too much time. We see Esipenko, though, he is with the higher heart rate. He's the more excited of the two.
So I'm scared here, Tanya, because obviously that rook on the line against the king, I'm just looking for the first opportunity for white to play f3. What's the black plan here?
Well, the bishop was attacked, so he first takes a timeout, White does, to retreat the bishop and double down, even triple down on the central knight that you pointed out. And for now, Esipenko, a big decision. Will he consolidate the position of that knight by pushing one of his other central pawns? And this is absolutely nuts what we're seeing in this opening. The speed with which Esipenko is handling it, the offbeat moves that he's playing, getting his king out early on, heavy opening preparation, putting pressure on Jan Nepomniachtchi.
I think, David, this is the first time I've ever seen within the first 10 moves of a game an exclam being given to king f7. Like, I'm sure it does happen, and this isn't the first time it's happened, but this is rare.
This is rare, and we do see accuracy very high there at the bottom of your screens from Esipenko. Don't try this at home, guys and girls. That's my advice here, because this is super high-risk chess from Andrey Esipenko's black. Normally, traditional wisdom says be solid with black. A draw is a great result, but he does not want to back down. He wants to assert his dominance early, and he's doing well. Look at the clock situation. 2 minutes up with black. He's 1 pawn up for now, but that pawn will soon disappear. The white queen or rook will recapture it in the center. And yeah, this game is going to be a real fight.
Is that the plan, Tanya? Is it playing on the clock, or are there some positional nuances that maybe we should consider as well?
This is an absolute firework of a position. With the black king out in the open, the white pieces in the center of the board. A pawn has just been picked up by the knight. You can't capture that knight back because the queen is hanging. The white queen X-raying the black queen. There are checks coming up. Positional strategic elements are out of the window right now. You've got to focus on that safety of the king. Jan Nepomniachtchi looking for an attack, looking for an early blow. I will say one thing. Jan Nepomniachtchi, in his best form, can beat absolutely anyone super quickly. And I wonder if this might end up being a miniature.
He's done it to me plenty of times. Tanya, he's great at those dynamic fights where it's all about going for the enemy king. Esipenko there, developing one of the black bishops. That's the first start. Here, he should be aiming to move the black rook from the top right corner out to f8, e8. Get that black king back to safety.
Yeah, castling would have been useful, but if you have to do it manually by hand and it takes you 3 moves to get there, so be it. This is a really interesting, really dynamic start to the day. I wasn't expecting to see this in game 1.
I love it. This is what we love about this format. And notice how this is the first time in the game that Andrey Esipenko, he takes a pause, which means that he's now out of his preparation. This is the position where game starts for him, and it's a tough one to handle. You have to decide which spot to put your rook on. Eventually, how do you have the time to get your king onto safety? Will white be able to strike in the center by pushing the pawn next to the queen 2 steps forward as well? So big ideas on the board. Jan Nepomniachtchi took his time, but handled the opening, surprise, perfectly.
Yeah, very decent play, very solid play from Jan Nepomniachtchi, recovering from that early shock. But for Esipenko, he needs to keep his time advantage. He was playing super quick. He landed the first blow, but now clock's leveling out, and he just needs to play solid. Black here is doing very well long term. Black has 2 bishops. When the board opens up, that is a great trump card to have up your sleeve. But I do fear if he plays too slowly, that will not come to pass.
And I also noticed, like you said, clocks are leveling out. Heart rate, far from leveling out. It was Esipenko with the higher heart rate. And now that we've got the 7-minute mark, you know, Jan will shift focus to his forte. He'll start pushing the pace. He knows he's out of that opening surprise element. He's going to now just make sure he gets the moves in quickly. He's already up on the clock. The piece is looking great. Material balance in place. Now, Esipenko starts with attacking the white queen, which falls back. It might be time to get the rooks off the board, get that black rook to the central open line. I have to say, Esipenko looks pretty chilled on the camera.
He looks pretty chilled, but from my experience of rapid chess, you can't afford to relax too much. Sometimes you go into a bit of a lull, you tank for a couple of minutes, and suddenly you realize, whoops, I've lost the thread of the game. Another quick couple of pawn moves there, both sides just solidifying their positions, but the key moment's still ahead.
I find it interesting that Esipenko brought the surprise here in game number 1, but was also the player to go back into the tank and end up with lower time than Nepomniachtchi. It's interesting that we've chosen to play several other moves, including h5, rather than bring the rook on h8 into the center of the board. So he's thinking more creatively. He's thinking, great, I've caught Jan with one surprise. Where's the next one? That must be what he's thinking right now.
Yeah, I love to see it. Just the ambition by the youngster Esipenko, pushing his pawns, pushing his opponent's pieces back. That's a retreat from the white knight, a retreat from Jan Nepomniachtchi. I'm expecting the black light squared bishop to come out now, hit the white queen on the f5 square. But yeah, it's just the attitude is spot on from Esipenko. I do worry about the clock situation though.
He's taking the fight to Jan in this game, you know, with his approach.
Yeah.
Not something you need to do against a player like Nepomniachtchi, because you know that he'd always make that chaos. I will point out that Esipenko does have a long-term strategic advantage of the bishop pair.
Yes.
The positions are open. There are diagonals to play for here. So Esipenko's got something to push for. But the short-term element of the game, the king's safety, the open lines, it's going to be a fight between these two.
He's castled by hand on the king side of the board. h5, harry the h-pawn. h4, h3 now as well. This is a statement of intent from Esipenko. He is not going into this fight lying down at all, and he's really giving Jan a lot of problems to think about, at the expense, though, of Andrey's clock.
Yeah, this is modern chess at its best. Shove those pawns forward, especially the h-pawns. That black pawn sitting right near the white king now, it's going to be like a bone in the throat. There's going to be so many tricks, tactics, checkmating ideas later. But of course, very much long-term. Jan tries to block up that flank meanwhile.
And if you're black, you're probably thinking about, I want more diagonals. I want to get to that square in front of the white king. Throw open the position by pushing that d pawn, get some trades in, get the bishops more active, maybe potentially clear up a square for your queen eventually to land on. And there it is on the board. d4 does happen. Once again, Esipenko is the one putting pressure with black against Jan Nepomniachtchi.
This is such a strange dynamic position here, David, but I'm going to let you take a look at c4 first, because we have had our first question mark for a little while. What's going on here with those raking bishops? This looks dangerous.
This looks very dangerous, and I'm just going to try and draw a couple of things that might happen, try to predict the future here, and it's the black queen trying to get in to the g2 square. The white king is in a mating net. That is why we see on the left of your boards the eval bar giving black a +1 advantage. There's a clear route actually. The black queen wants to slide across to the light square diagonal and drop in with a checkmate.
And that's a big threat being set up on those squares right in front of the white king. I mean, Jan Nepomniachtchi, he is in real trouble in this position. I wonder how much this is going to be about trying to flag Esipenko, who's at about a 4.5-minute mark here. What white is trying to set up is to block that diagonal that David was earlier pointing out, with the f-pawn moving one step forward, making sure there's no kiss of death checkmate once the queen lands on g2. It's all about the light squares. It's all about the long diagonal.
Now, if white is able to do that, we have to talk about not really many pawns in front of the black king, right? King safety here doesn't look that great for black, but at the same time, if you're playing with the white pieces, where's the breakthrough? Where are you trying to start a mating attack of your own? Where should we be looking, David?
Yeah, so the white queen is trying to jump in. There's a key check that black has to watch out for. You have to be ready to block or deal with that just to put a move on the board. What Esipenko wants to do is to bring his own queen across, to slide it across and drop in with a checkmate. Watch out for this one later. This is going to be the key idea in the position, but for now, it can be dealt with by a block from the white pawn. So it's all about the queen trying to get in and white trying to deal with that.
And that h3 pawn, at the time, you're able to sort of blockade the attack, but realistically, it is just a long-term liability for white's king safety as well, Tanya. So there's plenty of dynamicism going on here.
It's an asset for right now, but in any endgame, it could very much come under fire. Like you said, could be the big weakness. Now, we see the queens coming off the board. That has to be a relief for the player playing with the white pieces. Like I said, endgames, that h-pawn, which is advanced up, can be a liability. The g-pawn moving forward, disconnecting the bishop from that pawn, then get your king closer to that black pawn, just win it. And that could be part of the strategy. But look at this, Esipenko always aggressive. He's about to get the other rook into the game.
Now, you mentioned the E word, endgame. I do have to talk about one thing in the position here. The pawn on d4 for black is a passed pawn. At what point do we start getting quite excited about it?
I think soon, Esipenko, he's bobbing up and down in his chair. We saw his screen a second ago. Now we see Jan Nepomniachtchi's screen. Esipenko had pre-moved to recapture that black rook, which might be taken on the next go. He'd pre-moved d takes e3, that beautiful black passed pawn in the center, getting closer to promotion, and I think he's hoping to maybe, if all the rooks come off, that passed pawn will paralyze the white knight and or the white king. In the meantime, Jan here desperately seeking exchanges. The knight retreating, given a question mark, but begging now for the rooks to come off.
And they do come off. At least one pair of rooks come off the board. And the bar says that that might not be the best way, but a practical decision here. I think for Jan Nepomniachtchi, it's Esipenko's clock. That's his best friend. A pawn attacked on the board by the bishop, defended now by the knight. The king moves forward. The king is the most important piece. And look at this. White is setting up, trying to get to that h3 pawn. But it's a tough ask.
It's a tough ask. The question here is whether Esipenko can make progress, whether he can break through. The clock situation, he's down under 3 minutes. Jan Nepomniachtchi just under 5, so 2-minute difference here. But if the game continues, if there's no breakthrough, the clock is going to be the biggest factor. It looks like what we call a fortress in chess, where there's just no breakthrough for black.
And a potential idea as well that doesn't work anymore is if white was able to play g4, you might be able to get the king up and attack the pawn on h3, but you can't do that. There's no way through.
And the players are repeating the position here. The kings are dancing back and forth. If the position repeats 3 times, if Esipenko moves his king across back to f5, the game will be declared a draw.
And it does. There it is. We've got our first result of the eSports World Cup.
So, big question here for both of you, I suppose. How much is Jan Nepomniachtchi breathing a sigh of relief at the end of that game?
He's definitely the happier of these two players. I mean, coming on with the white pieces, this is not what you're expecting. Jan was very aware that the opening Esipenko started with was a dubious one. But you don't have so much time to recollect your opening preparation. What is the right way forward? And I think Esipenko, some great practical decisions there, putting the pressure on, getting the advantage. Jan managed to get out, but I think he's definitely the more relieved of these two.